The following announcement has been paid for by the New World Order.
Well, you didn't think I'd miss a wrestling one, did you? We're here, because when you're NWO, you're NWO for life. Let's go.
Join the fight with the elite older gamer. Level up on the clutch time tamer. EOG.
Hello everyone, it's EOG. And yeah, your defending champion, the Shan Raza Cup, has made an appearance rather quickly. But don't worry, dudes. I'm not here to pick up the dub. This is a light run, but I'm going to help you with yours. So there's 3 parts to this video. All right, 3 things. And I'm going to get the first 2 things out of the way because it's probably what you're clicked for. There's a challenge going round on WCW versus NWO Revenge, a classic wrestling game from the N64 and one of my favourites of all time, being an absolute wrestling geek shill. So, I know a lot of people might not have access to that. So today's video is a bit of a unique one because I'd actually already edited in something else and was working on a video in the background, which was the top 10 WCW wrestlers, a VR to a request from Raza is Retro. So here's what we're going to do, okay? Number 1, I'm going to show you how to get the 2 WCW games on the N64. In fact, if you're just here for that, they're in the description. Let's just go and click them and you can go if you want. But yeah, there's a site there called retrogames.cc I use a lot. And the recording for the gameplay you're about to see is trash. Do you know why? Because I use my phone. That's how easy this damn thing is. So you'll see like controller things over the screen. I just screen recorded the phone. So not the usual standard of the EOG, but it's a simple quick run to show you how to do it. Secondly, before we get onto that other edited clip of the top 10, if you're not interested in that, no disrespect taken. But here's what it is. It's called the Kiss My Boot Challenge. It's WCW versus NWO Revenge on the N64. And the rules are, you must play with Kevin Nash. You can play with against CPU, anyone you like. Okay? Apart from Eric Bischoff. Any wrestler, fight them. High score challenge, special moves are banned, and you must win with the big boot, which will be Kevin Nash. Just hold B, and he does it every time. He will just do it in the ring. So just hold B, or whatever your equivalent controller is, and he'll do the special move. Because my advice to you is, just have patience and do a really long match and you'll win. That's it, right? Just do a really long match and you'll just score. We'll keep ticking up with moves you do. That's my advice. My one's about 10-15 minutes, which should work for my WCW top 10. And that's it. So you've got the access to the game. Use that website for loads of games if you'd like. You've also got a strategy if you want to get involved and try and win this challenge. Good luck. Now we're going to move on to my WCW top 10 and gameplay. If you're interested, you're welcome. Take care. Bye-bye.
Finally.
So Raza, I think Sub also did a top 10 wrestlers list. And look, I'm a wrestling geek, right? Look at this stuff. Is it real or not? Who cares? It's amazing. That's some of the ring mat from WrestleMania 40. Not cheap, right? And there's some stuff down there that's amazing. And as you can see, spoiler, he's obviously going to be in the list. That's Sting, although it's an AEW figure. That's Sting. And if you've been here on the channel for a while, you know me and the Elite Younger Gamer have been to a number of wrestling events. Choose any clip.
And his name is...
And my childhood was WCW. The Attitude Era, yeah, Stone Cold, The Rock and all that, it was amazing. But for me, WCW at that time was the one. So just a note, there are some wrestlers who haven't made the list who would be in my all-time list. For instance, can you see down there? That's Bret Hart right there. Bret Hart would be in the top 10, probably top 5 wrestlers ever. He's not in this list simply because his WCW run was garbage. So I'm basing it off that. Booker T. I love Booker T. Tell me he did just not say that. I love me some Booker T. But he was on the come up in WCW predominantly, and towards the end he started making the main event scene, but he was mainly in the Harlem Heat, which were great, but I'm just going my 10 best ever singular wrestlers, okay? So let's go straight in. Number 10. Number 10 is Randy Savage, Macho Man Randy Savage. What can you say about this legend? Absolutely amazing. And when he came into WCW at the time, it was quite a big deal. You know what I mean? It was just like, he was awesome. His promos were the best. He was so out there. He was like a wrestler's wrestler back in the day. Macho Man had to make the list. He should be higher, really, but I'm just going on personal preference. And some of these in this list will be quite shocking, especially one. I'm weird, but I'll give the context of why. So Randy Savage is just an all-out legend. The Mega Powers, that feud with Hogan over Elizabeth was just stunning at the time. I know that's WF, but he's just amazing. So Randy Savage gets a slot. Number 9. Number 9 is going to be Raven. Now, Raven, he was awesome. So he made his debut. So I used to watch at the time. Some of these wrestlers, you won't understand what it was like back then unless you watched. So if you remember any of these from their WWF runs, or you never really watched at the time, I watched week to week, every week. I think it was on a channel called Bravo in the UK, and we was always like 4 or 5 days behind, so I used to watch it on a Friday night. But when he first came into it, he'd just sit in the crowd waiting, and everyone was like, who is this dude? And he'd just sit there. He looked cool as hell. He had his own gimmick. He had his own flock, as it was called. He was just cool as hell and a decent wrestler. I'm not really into extreme wrestling. I'm not into like bloodbaths and that. It's not my thing. I prefer the promo wars and good wrestling matches. But, you know, he never really showed that side in here too much. There was some trash cans and all that, but the extreme stuff stayed out of it. So Raven was cool as hell. They just never pushed him to the top. I would have. Number 8. Number 8's going to be Chris Jericho. Now, Chris Jericho in WCW was mainly a mid-carder. But this feud he had with Goldberg, when he had his own security guards and that, the comedy aspect of Jericho on the time was unbelievable. There's one of the most famous segments ever where Dean Malenko was known as, I think, the man of 1,000 holds. And he just came out with this long list that dropped to the ground and rolled saying, I've got 1,001 holds. Genius comedy actor, but a good wrestler at the time as well, on the come up. And he was so good in that mid card. Eventually he made it to WWF as a main eventer because he was just so entertaining, and he didn't care about winning too much. So his feud with Goldberg, he got destroyed obviously. So he was a lot smaller at the time, but Chris Jericho was so damn entertaining and more of a kind of cruiserweight wrestler at the time. So Chris Jericho all day must make the list. Next on the list is Lex Luger. Now, Luger is not the greatest wrestler of all time, okay? He's not the greatest promo of all time, right? In fact, as you've seen there, he's down as being famous for having one of the most awful promos in wrestling history.
Can he afford to pay me to wrestle around? I don't know!
But I loved him in WWF at the time. Not many people liked the bus gimmick and the American Hero when he slammed Yokozuna. I loved it. I was well into it. Right, I was one of the few that it captured. And when he came over here, it was a big deal. I think he left Raw or SmackDown. Would have been Raw at the time, wouldn't it? And the next day, he just debuted at the end of a Nitro. And he was kind of one of the big first movers. And he was treated as a main event star. You know, jumped between the NWOs and stuff. Wasn't the great technically, but he was I just enjoyed him overall in WCW. So out of respect, I'm going to give Lex Luger a run. And he had a good run there. You know, he won a lot of titles and he beat Hogan at one point for a title. He lost it quick, but Luger was up there. Right, okay. I've got to give some context to this one because everybody, if you're a WCW fan, will be going, what the fuck? But anyway, number 6 is Alex Wright. Okay, let me explain this. So, we used to watch the full show every week, right? So we'd watch it in full, like you're meant to do. But most of us these days watch highlights, YouTube and that. It weren't an option back then. You either watch bits or you watch the whole lot. I used to watch everything. Alex Wright with this dance, okay, was ridiculous. It was just so stupid. I still remember, believe it or not, my memory's horrendous. But I remember his first few runs at it, coming out, doing it, and the crowd were like, what is going on? But he got it over, because in the end, People were like, you got to respect this dance. Anyway, we took it to a new level. This is why he's making the list. So at the time, in the following years or near the same time, I can't remember, but I've mentioned in other videos, there was times in my childhood, early, 20s and stuff and late teens, we were out. Me and the lads were out all the time. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, on the piss all the time, right? When you don't care about your health or anything or responsibilities, no kids, it was just party time all the time. Anyway, for a joke, we started taking this dance really far. And I'll tell you what, you'd have to do... It was a pub in Solihull called Mason's, I believe it or not. And this is just one of a selection. We started making it a weekly thing where can you fit in the Alex Wright dance and not give a fuck what anyone thinks. So this one time in this pub, and if you haven't been there, no, it's not like a modern bar at the time. It's not like a club feel. It's not really a dance floor place. All these blokes with beers must have been going, what are these lads doing? Right? It's around 7, 8 p.m. only. It's not even late. We've gone straight after work, all met up and gone, should we go out, just do our work stuff and get on it, right? Well, we're doing the stance, so to speak, and then all break into the Alex Wright dance in the middle of this, but not giving a shit what anyone thinks. And then it became a thing, and we used to do it everywhere we went. And you could see people going, what is that dance? What are they doing? That's horrendous. But no shit's given. We carried on. So that's why Alex Wright is always going to be a legend. And he was a good wrestler as well. He was decent, athletic, but that is the reason why he gets a slot. Number 5, we're into the heavy hitter section now. We're into the heavy hitters. It's Goldberg. Now, Goldberg arguably should be higher or lower to you. But look, if you know anything about Goldberg, if you go mainly off him off your WWF run, right, you'd be thinking, Goldberg's trash, what? No, brothers. If you watched at that time, Goldberg in WCW was a phenom. And by that I mean there'd never really been much like it before. This guy was so over, it was insane. I remember how big Stone Cold was at the time. And there was constantly vetted who would win out of Stone Cold and Goldberg, right? This guy's run for a year and a half was ridiculous. And some of the best matches I've ever seen is just him destroy. My favourite guy for Goldberg match is Goldberg versus Raven when he won the US title on the come up. Not the Hogan match, Raven. And he destroys this whole flock. And he did things that were absurdly strength-wise. Jackhammering the Giant, who's not like the Big Show. I'm talking when he was Giant, when he was massive. He was jackhammering this guy. There was a guy in this match called Reese who was absurdly big. Over big, 7 foot, whatever. Jackhammered him just in the middle of a match. Goldberg was absolutely insane. No promos. Every week, give me a match, destroy someone in a minute. It was incredible. And because it went so quick to that you thought, he's not going to beat Hogan. There's no way he'll beat Hogan. And he just did. And in the same fashion, it was like, this is the greatest ever wrestler ever. Garbage at wrestling technically. But I mean, for the impact, Goldberg was absolutely insane. But the reason he's not higher is just because once that streak ended, it was kind of hit and miss from there on. But the streak, honestly, at that time, you need to know. If you know, you know. Number 4, they say all men are created equal. But you look at me and you look at Samoa Joe and you know that statement is not true. It's Scott Steiner. I know that's a TNA promo. Scott Steiner. Big Papa Pump Steiner. Oh, man. Again, I don't care about the wrestling. I don't care about the titles or lack of. I don't care what faction he was in. Just give Scott Steiner a microphone and let him go. And it was ridiculously entertaining every single time. This guy made promos up on the fly that made no sense. Sometimes he'd be absurd with language. Big Papa Pump's got your hook up. Scott Steiner at that time was absurdly, outrageously big. There was clearly no wellness policy in WCW at the time. Scott Steiner was absurdly entertaining. I got a Steiner figure. Yeah, there he is. There's your Scott Steiner. Should we leave it open? That is Steiner down there. Our respect for Scott Steiner. He's in there. Scott Steiner is absurdly entertaining. So he gets a slot. Right, where are we up to? Number 3. Number 3 is Hollywood Hulk Hogan. Another one who's over there. Now, the reason is because forget the latter part of his career, forget the drama, we're just going off on WCW, right? That's all we're going off. Everyone was fed up of the whole gimmick of say your vitamins, eat your prayers and all that. Nope, other way around. Say your prayers, eat your vitamins and stuff. The heel turn will never be matched in wrestling, ever. Never again will there be a heel turn like Hulk Hogan's heel turn. Forget that garbage of John Cena's. I'm telling you now, there will never be a heel turn like Hulk Hogan's. It was unbelievably done. Just watch how much the ring floods with trash because people couldn't restrain themselves from throwing shit in the ring saying, fuck you, Hogan. And then he not only is he got the heel turn, he backed it up with probably, arguably, in my opinion, the greatest faction that ever lived, the NWO for life. Hulk Hogan is ridiculously talented as a heel. He should have done it sooner, but who cares? When it was done, it was unbelievably entertaining. He was a master heel. My favourite wrestling match ever is Hogan versus The Rock. Again, at WrestleMania in another company, but forget about the technical ability. I don't give a shit. I just want to be entertained. That's why I like wrestling in the first place. I couldn't give a shit how good you are technically. Make it like a soap opera where it's entertaining for me to watch. Well, the Hulkster is the man for the job. Now, this one might be a bone of contention for WCW. But number 2, because you might be expecting him to be number 1, it's Sting. It's Sting! Sting is number 2, okay? Now, Sting, the Crow gimmick, is probably my favourite gimmick of all time. Nowadays, in wrestling, a lot of you probably don't watch anymore. Probably best. It's a bit shit. But back then, the storylines went for epic amount of weeks. Nowadays, if they did Sting now, doing the Crow gimmick in the rafters, okay, they would have him in the rafters for like 1 week, and then the next week he'd be down in the NWO taking him out. And you know, this guy was in the rafters at the show for weeks without saying a word. It was built up for a year, this match between him and Hogan. They fucked that up as well. But anyway, he was up in the rafters for weeks. And everyone was just like, what? He's got Sting's up in the rafters again. In the end, you believed he was unhinged. In the end, you believed he'd lost his mind. Right? Biggest WCW legend. AEW figure up there. That's quite rare now, actually, or hard to get. Even in AEW, he was amazing, by the way, for his age. However, why is he not made number 1 then, EOG? Because I am going to be a bit biased here. Because a lot of this stuff does come from NWA. And I know that's a hypocrisy because I left out Bret Hart. Because of his stuff wasn't that good in WCW. However, NWA and the belt and that kind of coincides with WCW and stuff. It's Ric Flair. It's Ric Flair, dudes. Ric Flair is the greatest of all time. I don't care what anyone says. Ric Flair is the greatest promo ever. The greatest gimmick ever. He had one of the best factions ever. He had until Cena, he had the most world titles ever. He had the best promos. He was an amazing wrestler. He was entertaining as hell. Now, I didn't actually like too much the stupidness towards the end of the WCW run of ending up in your boxers. I know it's one of the most famous promos ever. But Ric Flair in his boxers throwing all his clothes in the crowd and elbow drops. I'm not too keen on that stuff. But the promos, when he talked about he was the first guy to do it. To basically say, I'm rich, I do what I say, and I do what I do. And he did it, right? This guy's had a ridiculous amount of wives. This guy's clearly got a drinking issue to this day and survives. The guy's been he was in a helicopter crash, I believe, survived. Everybody wanted to see Hulk Hogan versus Ric Flair for years and years. Didn't really live up to the hype, but look, it was built up. And he's still got some of the most famous promos to this day. Ric Flair, in my opinion, is the greatest of all time. There is nobody as entertaining as Ric Flair. If you look at all the stuff he's done across his career, Even in he was so old when he got to do, and let alone the last few years, when he got to WWF, he was old then, and he still had an amazing run. Like, what was that faction with Batista and Triple H? Evolution. That was amazing. The retirement match with Shawn Michaels. That was amazing. The guy just kept going. The generations, the decades he span, his cultural relevance still goes to this day, kind of.
You talking to the Rolex wearing, diamond ring wearing, kid stealing. Now give me 2 claps and a Ric Flair. Woo!
He's very old now, you know. God, oh shit, it must be 70s. I don't know. But there's been songs about Ric Flair. Rap stars love Ric Flair. This guy is the greatest. And forget technical ability again. If you want to know who the best technical wrestler ever is, in my opinion, go to Bret Hart. But I would say Ric Flair's the GOAT for me. Absolute GOAT. That's my top 10 list. And you can see how passionate I am about that. My favourite ever episodes of television is WCW Nitro in that period in the 90s. Holy shit. That was entertaining. That's what made me fall in love with wrestling and find it entertaining as all hell. That series, that show, those characters, incredible. So that's where I'm going to leave this one.
And that's not an insult, that is just a fact of life. Yeah!
And that brings this one to a close. As I said, that bit in the middle was pre-edited because I was working on another video, but it fell so nicely to do this as a challenge video, although not going all out. Get something out there quick. Obviously, I won't be entering it again because that's the rules anyway. And yeah, good luck with your challenges. Try retrogames.cc, great website, works on most stuff. This worked really well on my phone. I did get some lag at points, but it quickly catches up. And that is because I've got a garbage broadband connection. But anyway, I'm going to sign off. Take care, bye-bye.